Hi, my name is John Chodacki, and I'm joined by Todd Carpenter. We are the ORFG PID Strategy Working Group co-chairs. This is the fifth video in our series discussing our project on developing a US National PID Strategy. In this video, we're going to be discussing some of the ways we recommend we as a US community move forward with new approaches and new investments in the way that we work with PIDs. The first topic that we wanted to discuss in this video is really this concept that Todd brought up earlier in one of the previous videos around how we as a community have been locked into many legacy systems. There are limitations to embracing and utilizing these legacy systems. And one of the things that we wanted to bring up in our report and in our work and here in this video today is how those legacy systems should evolve and need to evolve to be able to effectively help in managing research outputs and be a part of an effective US national PID strategy. Many of these legacy systems lack granularity and don't really match up to the desirable characteristics that we have previously described. However, they are very much ingrained into our research landscape. And so for us to be able to move forward as a US entity, as a diverse community, we need to think about ways to transition those to a more sustainable, accessible, and really modernized approach to persistent identifier infrastructure. Of course, we understand that there are challenges to transitioning any system, especially ones that have been embedded for so long into our systems. And so we do need to make sure as a community, we are looking at ways to do technological updates and changing the workflows, but also really kind of going back to those desirable characteristics. We really want to upgrade into a more community-driven and open way of managing the metadata and the systems that surround them. When we think about these legacy identifiers, we also want to think about how that transition will be difficult for us, but through it we can create efficiencies. And so that kind of implementation, that kind of a phased approach and an effective transition can really help us as we implement a transition from legacy identifiers to modern PID systems. This should and could include stakeholder engagement, training, support for affected users, and really make sure that we are including all stakeholder groups, as we've discussed in our previous videos. We've also discussed in previous videos the importance of centralizing many of our PID systems, and this is also something that comes in when we're discussing legacy identifiers. We want to make sure that there are central locations of truth and that there are governance and management systems available and implemented in our modern PID systems. So as we move from legacy systems as a community, we want to make sure that we adopt best practices, and included in that is making sure that there are central approaches to many of these challenges. And so another aspect of the transitions to new approaches that we want to bring up is supporting those centralized systems. So as Todd mentioned in previous videos, we have many systems throughout the United States and around the world that are looking for ways to create and reach an impact across the research landscape. And that the best approach for those systems is really to have that single source of truth and for there to be a centralized approach and unified approach for PID management. This type of approach addresses many of the diverse needs of stakeholders and really looks to the fact that we have a very heterogeneous system within the United States and around the world that needs that sort of facilitation and collaboration and cooperation. And the key way to make that happen is through centralized clearinghouse for being able to understand how PIDs are being managed and how to negotiate the metadata that they are facilitating. And so this type of an approach is something that we should be leaning into as we build our US National PID strategy. It facilitates compliance and transparency and really helps with creating the types of benefits that we've been outlining previously.
And none of this is going to work without true investment, there are many areas in which our community needs additional support. And we, in the report that we developed, we outlined some of those areas for additional investment. Obviously, much of this, it relies on a technical infrastructure, and there is a need for investment in that technology to ensure scalability, reliability, and adaptability, not only for existing systems and existing infrastructure for article identification, but emergent needs as well for those new objects or even the new use cases for the existing infrastructure that already is in place. Obviously, there is also a need for community engagement here, investing in community participation in these initiatives and the governance, as we've discussed, the real need for community participation in governance to ensure that these systems are meeting the needs of researchers and the people who are using those systems. Because that's the only way in which this ecosystem is going to be responsive to community needs. A third area of investment has to do with education and outreach. Not everyone is aware of the role of persistent identifiers in our community. We need to raise awareness about the benefits of persistent identifiers to ensure their widespread adoption. Why should I care? What is it going to do for me and my ecosystem? And why should I invest the resources to implement the social, technical infrastructure necessary to support persistent identifiers? These are all core areas of investment that are needed when it comes to persistent identifiers. Other areas of investment have to do with interoperability. The development of a centralized system is only as good as the engagement and interoperability with other existing systems. To ensure seamless interoperability, we are not, as I mentioned, not trying to create a wholly new system. We're trying to get systems to work together so that they serve users' needs without the need to create new systems. And while this project is focused on the US context, we also need to recognize that we work in a global scientific ecosystem. And we need to align our strategies in the United States with other international national strategies, how they work across borders, promoting global interoperability and global reuse of scientific outputs. We also need to invest in innovation and research. What are the new areas, the new applications, the new systems? And how can we help to iterate those systems to address emergent challenges, needs in research management, as well as content dissemination? As research has changed, the number of types of scholarly outputs has grown, from research data to software, to visualizations, software code. There are various new types of scholarly outputs that are coming into the community, and we need to provide space for them, and as well as bring them into the knowledge graph that is the scholarly ecosystem. So as we do, we close this out with asking you to reflect on some of the things that we've been discussing and how they impact you and your organizations. So think about what legacy systems exist in your own organization. Are you using ascension numbers and various elements of systems in your institution? And are those systems, those legacy systems, creating barriers to cross-institutional data exchange? How might a national strategy help improve the collaboration when it comes to moving beyond those legacy systems? And how does your organization support, in a meaningful way, all of this transition? For more information about this entire project, we've been as open as we can be with as we've developed this. There is, as John mentioned, the Zenodo link where you can get the actual report. There is a blog post on the Force 11 website focused on desirable characteristics of persistent identifiers. There is also a blog post on the Scholarly Kitchen website, as well as an ongoing community discussion related to the National PID strategy in this report. We're trying, as John said, to bring these recommendations out to the community and foster greater conversation. And the PID forum is one area where we can continue this ongoing conversation. So with that, we'll draw this session to a close. As we do, we want to acknowledge the Open Research Funders Group, who helped organize the working group that John and I have been discussing, and in partnership with Helios Open and Spark, helped to drive this work towards completion. We also want to recognize the support of the TIGRUS facilitation program, which is supported by the Pervasive Technology Institute at Indiana University, as well as the Research Data Alliance and RDA-US. So thanks so much to them and for help supporting this work. And thank you for listening to this program.